Seriously. Raise the flag. Let's go salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you,
Mrs.
Scouts.
Strasser?
Thank you so
Are we
much.
recording?
Are you?
Are we live?
You don't
Thank
come
you.
in the summer, correct?
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, guys.
So
Thanks, guys.
thank you for
We'll pick
all.
back up in the fall.
Yeah, thanks for always getting them together, getting them here. It's
course.
really great to have them here.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
We'll go roll call. Mrs. Galich,
Yes.
Mrs. Regner,
Yes.
Mr. Hurst,
Present.
Mr. Gentile,
Present.
and I am present. Open meetings compliance check.
Yes, sorry. Yes, it was posted in that time.
Number 5, public comments. Please address the board. No back and forth. Limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone here for public comments? Anyone here for public comments? There are no public comments. Next, we'll have the approval of consent agenda. Kim, I did want to clarify one thing before we approve this. Mrs. Bush is taking a job at Wilmot where she's teaching and coaching, correct?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I'll second.
Motion by Hopkins, second by Mr. Hurst. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Number 7, approval of the special board meeting minutes from April 28th.
April 28th. I will make a motion. We approve those minutes as presented.
I will second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Gentile, second by
She
Mrs.
can't-
Regner.
She can't. She was absent on the 28th.
Mrs. Regner was
I'll second it.
Oh, you go ahead.
second by Mrs. Galich.
Sorry, Amy. You were absent on the 28th.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Mrs. Regner abstains. Approval of the special board meeting minutes from May 20th, 2025.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Galich,
Second.
second by Mr. Hurst. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain. However, please note, Mr. Gentile did attend the meeting for
Portion of the
Closed
closed
portion
session.
of the closed session.
Correct.
All right. DA report.
Okay, as always, we'll start with celebrations. It was a great month. Lots of great things. So you'll see there's a play that happened. Mrs. Strasser leads that. It was Alice in Wonderland. They did a fabulous job as usual. I think attendance was pretty good. It's just so nice to see the variety of students participating in it, from students that are quiet to students that are more outgoing. Costumes were great, and Mrs. Gogler helps with all of the props and all of the scenery. So really well done. We also had a band and choir concert this month. That was a great showing of our kids' musical talents, as well as the National Junior Honor Society. So we had 19 total kids in. 3 of them were, this is their second year of being in the National Honor Society. They have to get a letter of recommendation for that from their teacher, 25 hours of community service, an essay. They have to write an essay, and they have to have a 3.7 GPA. So we did that. I think it was last week we had that induction. And then also wanted to share with the board, we are very close to final approval on our gym floor, the redoing of it. So the renderings look like this. Mr. Schmafeld and Mr. Daniels worked on it, and then they are taking it to the students, the middle school students, for a final vote on which one they like. They have 2 choices. I think the only difference could be, it might say Riverview here. So the students are going to decide what they prefer, if it's just like that or Riverview. We are still waiting for, we have to have doors put in, but the leaks have been fixed in the gym. So that's great, because we were waiting on those 2 things to be able to do the gym floor. So
Will this start right after school is over, or close to it?
I think it'll be probably the end of July
Okay.
when it starts. I think we want to wait till after summer school, and we have to get the doors in.
That makes sense.
And then I wanted to share this little video. Okay, so one of the things I want to share with the board is a part of working with PBL, an important part of the tenets is to have a public exhibition or presentation of what you've learned. So Katie, Mrs. Coates did that in her 6th grade class in a small way. The intention is that we would have some of these evenings to open up to our community and to our families to come in, and the kids present the things that they've learned, whatever their project is. So I'm just going to show you a short clip because I think sometimes it helps to see like, oh, that's what it's going to sort of look like. So Mrs. Bush is just walking around videoing. It's not professionally done.
So blame Angie, you got it.
Yeah. So you can kind of see this is in Mrs. Coates' room. Kids are talking to other kids. They each had a topic that they could choose of their choice. They put together that one obviously is on bus safety, information about it, and then they presented it to other kids and adults. And those kids and adults then graded them on a rubric and gave them feedback.
Look how engaged they all are.
Yeah. So we are at the end of the year going to have a panel of teachers who have worked on PBL talk to the rest of the teachers about the things that they've learned. And that I would say, and Miss Zachary, you can chime in, the number one thing we hear is there's just no problems with engagement. Behaviors aren't an issue, right? Because they're really engaged in what they're learning. So part of PBL is exhibition or public product that it's relevant. So all of these topics were on things that were relevant to that bus safety. I listened to one on animal abuse and neglect. So they researched the topic, depending on what the standards are, they put the information together, and then you're graded on whether you get the standards or not. A big part of PBL is also having allowing kids to have voice and choice in what they do, what the content is. And so one of the things that we talk about in PBL is you turn the dimmer switch up or down on all the elements, and sometimes you give them more choice and voice, and sometimes you give them less. Another big part of PBL is critique and revision. So it's about getting feedback from other people and continuing to revise the work that you're doing. And then you are also giving critique and revision to other people. So it was really great for our younger students to see, and also fun for us to be in there. Ms. Zachary, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, and quite a few of the teacher, like all of our 5th through 8th grade teachers have done a unit. So similar things like gallery walks. I know Kristen they're going to be doing pop-up, selling pop-up shops, like of things that they wanted. Like there's a group of kids that are selling bats. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll allow bats coming in. That not flying bats, but you know,
Baseball bats?
baseball bats.
Softball bats?
So just relevant things, and it's nice because like a lot of our younger group, like Kayla Phillip did a gallery walk, and the 3rd grade kids came. So it's things that they can look forward to when I'm in the older grades. And then our 3rd and 4th grade teachers are going to get training next week also. So then next year they'll do one unit where our 5th through 8th graders will be doing more than one unit, and just kind of working it in that way.
Awesome.
And so many of our teachers this summer are receiving curriculum stipends. And so 5th through 8th grade, there's an availability, Julie's in on that as well, to receive a stipend to work on the units. And then there's some stipends for developing the crisis curriculum that we're going to be using in conjunction with the ALICE training to develop the monthly lesson plans, and our MLSS team. So we're building in some stipends for teachers to be able to work together over the summer to get ahead of some of the things that'll happen in the fall.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. But on the agenda, it says board celebrations, if there's any. Oh, no, that's at that. Forget it. Let me do the referendum first. Okay, referendum update. So another point of celebration, but also if it's in the referendum update, is we received our rating from Moody's. So Moody's is an organization that rates public institutions. The rating that they give you helps define to the people that are buying your bonds if you're high risk or low risk. And depending on how you're rated, you can get a better interest rate. And so it's really exciting because we got the best that we could get. We were hoping for, is it triple A3? Is that how you say it, Sue? I have double A3, but I feel
I think it was something.
double A3. They were deciding between an A1 rating and a double A3 rating. And the Moody's gave us the double A3. So that's awesome because that will help us with our interest rate. Jordan from Baird he called me about it. He emailed us about it. Like, this is great. Most districts don't get this. And so make sure your board knows I'm going to. So really a few of the things that made the difference was our facilities plan. They want to see a facilities plan so they know that we are projecting ahead, our strong fund balance, the fact that we have regular budget updates and we use the Baird model, and our strong open enrollment. Even though our enrollment is sort of flat, we have much more open enrollment in than we have out. So lots of really great things. There was a press release done from Moody's that goes out to the public. And along those lines, we're going to be looking at a resolution later. We are looking to sell those bonds tomorrow. I was like, whoa, okay, we're going tomorrow. And it's looking like that interest rate will be well below what we thought. We thought 5.12, that's what Jordan told us. It's looking at more like 4.7%.
Wow.
So that means our payments will be less, and so we can levy for less probably.
That's awesome.
So it's really great. So had a couple calls with Jordan today. So kudos to all the work that we've done financially in preparing for the referendum, and the board's support and the board's continued fiscal responsibility. It really helped us in the long run get a better interest rate and hopefully save the taxpayers some money. So also wanted to let you know where we are with the referendum, because everything's just silent right now. I'm meeting tomorrow with our attorneys and PSI attorneys to settle the contract. That's what was been taking so long. Our attorneys had quite a few things that they were asking of PSI. So they finally got through all of that. We're meeting tomorrow to finalize it so that I can sign the contract, and then we will be moving forward with some things in terms of getting bids. So wanted to make sure that the board understands the process for the bids. So we contract with PSI. Our contract is not with the bid, with the people that bid. It's with PSI. They vet and collect 2 to 3 bids. As a reminder, if there are people or contractors you want me to pass on to PSI as people that would be interested or have done work for the district, or of local, please let me know so that I can put that in front of them. I've given them, for example, we're going to be doing the PAs in the telephone system. They know to get a bid from CompuNet, because we work with CompuNet.
So how does that process work? Is it like public bids where they're silent and they choose the best one until the end? Or is it they choose, like, let's say CompuNet's a partner of ours, so they come in a little bit more, but we want to, how does that work?
So they will come and present the bids to me, which meet with the DA and show me the bids. And depending on what the bids are, I might have other people in there. Brian might be in, we'll meet and talk about it. And yes, you obviously want to go with the lowest, but also if there's one that you've been working with that's a little bit higher, they can get preference.
So
I just want to interject here on this one. So my understanding in talking with him about this when we had our meeting was that we do have final say on who they go with. They'll give us a recommendation, but if we choose to go with somebody else, and there is a lot to weigh in on it. So Kim mentioned, you would generally like to go with the lowest bid because you think it's the most efficient. But what I can tell you from experience in the industry is that just because it's the lowest number does not mean that it's the best number. And so that is definitely something to take into account. You really have to pay close attention to. And all of these contractors will provide a scope. And it's very important that we're diligent, and PSI will help with this considerably in determining to make sure that each bid is scope to scope bid to make sure that everything is being included in each bid. But again, the lowest bid doesn't necessarily always reflect the best option.
How do we know?
Sometimes what we spec, they might bid on it, but they may omit certain portions of a spec.
Correct.
So it's really important that you look over to make sure that they're meeting all the criteria in your spec.
Correct.
So that's really what that's why we pay PSI,
Yeah.
right? Is that they're doing a lot of that work for us
Mhm.
in saying, Kim, okay, this is apples to apples. Sort of like how Bruce did the bids that we had for E-rate last year, remember? Like there weren't always apples to apples. And so then it makes it look like, oh, I should go with this one when really, no, that's not the best one. So having that sort of vetted out is part of the,
And then how do we know when we should notify, like how do we know when bids are going out? Like, how do we know that you're looking for X, Y, or Z? Are you going to communicate that
Yes.
to us?
so there'll be frequent board updates, probably in my weekly updates, but maybe before. And okay, they're looking to, we're going out for the roof, which is going to be down the road, but we're going out for the roof. And then I will also be telling you, this is the bid that these are the people that are going to be doing the work.
In my
But I mean, how
conversation-
should we know to let you know if we have a contract you should consider?
You're saying like, how do we know the scope of work? Do we need
Yeah.
electricians? Do you need
Yeah.
painters?
Do
you
the
need
floor, how do we
plumbers?
know?
So in my conversation with Jim, what he said is all we have to do is provide them with the contractor.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking how do
When-
we know that
yeah.
we're doing the carpets on Tuesday and we should have bids to you about those people by this date?
If you know of somebody that does that specific work, you can already turn their names in and then they'll send out the bid to them.
PSI
they'll
is
send out
doing
the
all of
specs
that
to
stuff
them.
Preliminary.
Okay.
They don't, I know what you're saying.
I know what
but
you're saying,
They
too.
don't wait to go to bid until it's time for them.
Yeah,
But I
Yeah.
think, what do we know what the full scope of work from
Yes, I
contractors is?
understand.
Like, that's I think what he's asking.
Yeah,
Do we
so,
know if we
like,
need
when the
electricians,
fence is-
plumbers,
When we
fence-
start to go out for the bids for the fence, you want to know in case you know somebody, or the playground. That'll be on me to be ahead of that with you. So what we're doing right now is they've been, because I've been on them, like, I'm afraid we're not going to get this done this summer if we don't start getting the bids because we have to wait till the contract is signed. Can you do some of this work off of the side? I think what they're going to do is give me a timeline. Okay, in the month of June, we're going to start doing the bids on these 3 things. Then I will tell you, these are the 3 things. Like, we're not going to do the bidding for the playground right away. We won't do the bidding for the furniture right away because I need staff and community input on those things.
They have a construction agenda. that
Yeah,
they put together.
like a
It's whole-
timeline.
it's a whole schedule, a whole calendar that they
Okay.
do, and they'll have that before we even start the project. So they'll have a good guess as to when they're going to be doing this portion of
Yep.
each section of the construction.
And-
And the other thing that I would say is that if we have local contractors, if they're even a little bit more expensive, my personal opinion is that we would lean towards the local contractors that we know.
Well, I guess to that point, like, say we're looking for painters, do we put something out on our website or on Facebook that says local businesses looking for?
No,
Because that's a subcontractor, so
that's-
they would contact the general
They'd have
contractor
to
in
contact
return
PSI.
to get hired on with them.
So if you know of someone that specifically you want for a certain portion of the work, or you'd at least like to be considered, we'll let Jim and PSI know that, and then Jim will reach out to them.
Yeah.
To set that up and get bids. And have the full scope that they can provide to the contractor.
But do we have any recourse, say PSI omits something that, was supposed to be part of the project or whatever? I mean, are we protected by that? So, I mean, everything is included? How did that
Yes.
part of it, I'm not sure.
So that's in PSI's contract. That'll be their scope, and that will come down to us going through all of it with PSI and us being aware of what the full scope is and making sure that PSI has not missed anything in their scope. But once we've given them the okay on the scope, then it is their obligation to make sure that they convey that information to the specific contractors themselves. And if they were to not, it would be
On their-
on them.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
As
know.
long as we all understand and approve their scope of work with PSI, then yes, from that point forward, it would be their obligation.
Excellent.
And so that's part of what the attorneys are working out to make
Thank
sure
you.
that, we're covered under that, because it's a long document.
It's
Of
very
things that-
long.
Lots of legalese.
Yeah.
That they're telling me. And, we had to make sure we have insurance coverage, that the insurance coverage that we have is enough,
Mhm.
that our insurance company was comfortable with the insurance that they were providing. I wanted to make sure that we had the ability, for example, with the furniture, to not have PSI's markup. We could go directly with the furniture company. I'm not going to do that with the roof or, some of those things, but furniture it seems a little different. So that's what we're sort of like working out with them.
Do you know if performance bonds are required so that if you have a contractor that steps out, that we keep that and then we can fulfill that?
I
Do you know
don't,
what that
I'm
is?
not-
That's
no, I'm not
probably
sure.
not in our purview. I would imagine that
It's in PSI's
does
okay,
have,
okay.
they
Do you want me
have
to-
some protections in their contract.
No, it'll be in the contract, I'm sure, but I just
It
want
will
to make
be.
sure because it's
That's
a
good-
valid protection
That's a
that,
very good question, and generally speaking,
Thank you.
the customer would be, but
Okay.
when you hire on a GC like PSI, generally that falls under their purview. They have the obligation to catch all those kinds of things. and be aware.
Thank you. Okay. Enough questions.
No, I hope I feel like on the front end, the board did a good job of vetting the general contractor that we're going to use
Good.
for this very reason,
Yeah.
because we need, we can't know all of that and be on top of every little piece of it.
And we do actually we have a good leg up because most of the contractors that we have been looking at, PSI has good working relationships with already. So it's a good leg up.
Yeah, and both Baird and Von Briesen have worked with PSI quite a few times and have had really good things to say about PSI. So that was good to hear. You're all smiling and have inside jokes. Okay, quick employee update, employee benefits update. I wanted to just pass along to the board. I know I've been keeping you updated along the way. We had one last committee meeting this past week where we talked to the committee about what post-retirement benefits look like. And we also had some conversation around our current benefit plan. So everybody has now signed up for, if they wanted insurance, they're on ICHRA. There were a few little bumps in the road. I don't think it was too bad. Most of it came from having to be more engaged with the planning of it. The nice thing is we have the 6-month runway. If somebody wants to change, they can change insurances. I will say that I felt like OneBridge was pretty responsive. I had a meeting with their director because there was a few things. I was like, I don't want our employees to have to deal with this. And then that director met with those employees that maybe had a few extra questions. There was really no movement in terms of cash in lieu to the insurance or back and forth. I think the people that were had cash in lieu stayed in cash in lieu. There was a couple of people that moved to cash in lieu, but not because of the insurance, because of a marriage or family change. So that was coming anyway. So we talked about that. I think for the most part, people are cautiously optimistic about it. And the savings is, I don't have all the numbers yet. I just started putting them in the spreadsheet, but there's definite savings for the district as well. The other thing that the committee decided was currently our HRA investment for employees was at a fixed rate. So when I went to Mike Strobel from NIS, I asked him about why we were at a fixed rate for interest, because it's at 1.8%. And asked him what the money market would get our employees. So at the committee meeting, the committee decided to move the funds from the 1.8% to the 3% interest rate so that employees would be able to get more interest on their HRA funds, which makes sense. Employees do have the ability, if they want to go in and manually put it back to a fixed rate. So I'm going to be talking to the staff on the last day of school. I don't want to put an email out because it can be confusing. So I'm going to talk to them about that option. The benefits committee decided that that was a better option than saying, if you want to, you can go in and move it to 3%, over to the money market, because most people aren't going to do that. You know, you think you're going to do it, but you're not going to do it. So it's defaulted to a higher interest rate right now, which is great. Trying to squeeze out all of the things that all the pieces where we can find extra money for employees. We decided to pause the committee meetings about OPEB and reconvene in the fall. We talked about the fact that I need to get some more information and we need to continue to research it. And we really need to wait until we have more information around the biennial budget to make some of those decisions. Okay, now it's time for board celebrations before we get to discussion and possible action.
So I had two. I came to the band and choir concert and thought the kids did a great job. It was really, cool to hear the choir kids singing some modern day music. So I think it's Miss Vansel. Is that correct?
Yes.
She did a nice job with the choir students. So that was certainly good. And then I would also like to talk about the play. It was nice to get fired this year and not have to work, as it was an all student run production. So a lot less pressure on me this time. Instead of having to work the sound and lights and get yelled at by Mrs. Strasser, it was nice that her students were able to do it, and I thought they did a
And they
fantastic
got
job.
yelled at.
Well, yeah, but that's okay. That's their problem, not mine. I'm off the hook. But again, I thought they did a fantastic job, and it was great. So kudos to the students and Mrs. Strasser and Miss Vansel and Mrs. Hillock for the band and choir concert. It was certainly fun to come see them in action.
Great. Anything else?
No, just the excitement around the end of the year.
Okay.
We're on the countdown in our house.
Yeah, I think everybody's on the countdown. Okay, Brian, next up.
Next is make a motion. Is there a motion to approve the 25-26 board meeting calendar? You can see the two dates that move are December and March.
Due to
Christmas
Christmas
break,
break.
the third instead of the fourth.
I'll make a motion. We approve the 25-26 school board meetings as the fourth Tuesday of the month, unless the week falls on a holiday. There's another known conflict, so let's just move December and March to the third Tuesday of those months.
Motion by Mr. Gentile,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Hurst. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Any opposed? No. Motion carries. B, selection of the CISA 2 annual convention representative.
Is this the one at Whitewater, or is this?
Yeah, so it's on
Whitewater.
June 17th, 7 p.m. in Whitewater.
I will be out of town that week.
Let me look real quick.
I like the December or the January one.
I know, that's what I was thinking.
No, that's why I asked for clarification. I wanted to
It's a
make sure this
lot
wasn't-
less of a commitment. I think it's
I've gone to
maybe an
this
hour.
one. I've gone to this one. It's about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
They have hors d'oeuvres.
I unfortunately cannot do that one. I got my final ultrasound appointment with my wife that day. I can't make that one, sorry.
I can go that day if no one else can.
If you can't, let me know.
Vicky
and I'll-
coming into the clutch again.
It's Vicky or.
I make a motion, we approve Vicky.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mrs.
I
Regner,
love you,
second by
Vicky.
Mr. Gentile. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If you can't, let me
Opposed?
know and I'll rearrange the voice.
Motion carries.
I'll remember all of you.
Next, we have a motion, or we have the crisis alert system.
Yep, so I'm gonna have Gary Kuhn, hopefully, let's see if he's in here. You can't join us. Oh, no worries. Okay, well, hopefully he comes in a minute, but I can talk about it for a little bit until he comes in. So Gary Kuhn is the founder of Centigix. As a reminder, in the referendum, we talked about having a crisis alert system for the school. I started researching companies in the fall and having conversations with them. So this will be outside of PSI scope. So basically, in a nutshell, and Gary can do a better job of explaining if he comes in, staff members wear a badge, it's like a badge around their neck. And that badge has, if you click it 3 times or 8 times, it alerts admin and can alert the whole school if there's a lockdown, that we're going in lockdown. But it can, if you click it 3 times, it alerts admin that there is a medical crisis. Like I said, I worked with 3 different companies. The issue with all the two other companies, there was always an issue. Either they didn't connect with our system. So part of this is connecting with Clever Touch, because what you want to happen is if we would go into lockdown, the boards are taken over and computers are taken over. It says lockdown. There's also a strobe that is in each classroom that starts to go off. So, and you can choose the color of the light that goes off to alert everybody that we are also going into lockdown. So the other companies, they either they couldn't connect to our system, or I felt like there was too much room for error. So you might have to charge those things every night. If we do that it's too much human error then, right? Because all of a sudden you forget to charge it. Now it's laying over here. I don't know. So these badges have a battery life of 3 years. And not only that, but they are also connected to Centigix. So Centigix knows Mike's badge is low on batteries, and they start sending you badges for free to replace them. So it just reduces the amount of error. There's also very little training that we need to do. For admin, there's probably more, because we have to download an app, because we can put things in the lockdown as well. But teachers, all they really need to know is the clicks. This is what you do to put things in, if you need to put somebody in, the building in lockdown.
How many, I don't mean to interrupt, how many variations of clicks are there?
I think there's 2. I think there's 3 for a medical emergency and 8 for lockdown. And from my understanding, come on, Gary, in the systems that this has been tried in, an accidental lockdown only happened once.
Because of the fact that you have 8.
Yeah, because you have to click it 8 times. And what they tell teachers, which makes sense, if you need to go into a lockdown, just start clicking.
Well, and that was going to be my next question, is if they click and they click and click and they click 12 times.
Fine.
Just gotta get to 8.
Yeah, just got to get
So
to
just
8.
keep clicking until
Just
they
keep-
lock
just
down.
keep
Don't even
clicking.
count the 8.
Yeah.
Do these only work in the school?
No, they also have a perimeter of outside. So there's, I don't understand all the technical pieces, but there is like a,
Satellite receiver.
yeah, there's something that goes on our building, and the strobe lights are the conductor for the communication within the classroom and in the hallways. But then they also have something on the outside of the building that allows you, like if you were in the baseball field, or if you were.
It sounds like the system itself is actually hardwired together, and the only thing that is remote is the indicator, the clicking.
Yes.
Kim, do you know, is there any, so in the front office, like, I know we'd talked a little bit about, when we talked about this in the fall, like, do we have like a panic button that like a Patty's at the front or an administrator's at the front that they can hit that button, the sheriff's automatically called? Is that connected to this
Okay,
anyway?
yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm distracted right now because I'm trying to see why this guy isn't in here.
I wonder if you
Um,
go back out. and try to join the call.
Yeah, I tried to join. I'm gonna try it.
I was gonna say, if you try and join again, will it like ring him? I don't know how that works on Google.
He might
I'll
have
close out
thought
Teams.
he could come in a little later. I don't know. I'll keep, because I emailed him before we, like at the end of the day to make sure he was coming. I'm sorry, Brian. Yes, you are correct. So it is okay, so Centigix also did, I was hoping he was going to be able to talk about all this. Centigix did our digital mapping as well. So they're the company that we use to put our digital maps together. That has been shared with the sheriff's department. This is also connected and it actually doesn't need Wi-Fi to run. And I don't, again, know all the technical details. I had Bruce vet it and Amber vet it. Okay, let me just, I'm looking at this just to make sure that he's not trying to
I
get a
know
hold
the
of me.
system they use to do that. It doesn't require Wi-Fi because their entire system that they have is hardwired together.
Sorry.
And then
So,
the system that they put on the roof is I can't remember what they call it. It's like RFI or something like that. It's a different signal.
Yes.
That does not utilize Wi-Fi. So if your internet goes out, the system still works.
Right.
So if it's press 8 times, the sheriff department
yes,
automatically gets a call?
automatically gets alerted.
Okay.
Right, so no one has to call because it's an automatic alert. And if you remember, I think it was in Atlanta when there was a school shooting. This system is what they say saved a lot of lives because there was such quick turnaround with the response from the police department.
So is there a minimum year contract with these guys?
So the quote I think shows a 5-year contract, and this is that pricing through 5 years.
So this 54 is the 5-year contract
Yes.
price.
Do we have to go to a 5-year contract to start, or can we?
Well,
It looks like the way it's written, it says year one is 20,000.
yeah, there's more.
It's
That's your
additional.
8450 for the service.
And 1250.
And 1250 for
Yeah.
your setup and initiation.
Yeah.
But Brian's got a good question. Are we obligated to sign that 5-year contract?
You know what?
if
It's
they
3
have-
years of service. I just looked at my notes. No, this is for installation and 3 years of service. So I think we commit to the 3 years. It's a lot of upfront installation, and
The per year service is very reasonable.
it's very reasonable. So this gentleman has a vested interest. He started this company because of a trauma that happened for him. So he put all of these things in place. I had Bruce call a school in Florida and talk to their district administrator, who said it was a flawless install, and teachers, it's super easy to use, which was a big thing for me. I didn't want it to be another thing that teachers had to remember.
How does this, I know part of that special board meeting was conversation around SRO. Like, how does this impact that? If you go to an alert system versus having an SRO in the building, or is it one versus the other? Is it both, or have you given it any thought, or is that still something we've got to discuss further? Like, and I hate to put you on the spot like that, but obviously that was part of the discussion at the special meeting. And
Yeah, I don't think it's a one or the other.
okay,
I think, obviously this is a lot cheaper, but part of having an SRO in the building, I think that was discussed, is it's a broader presence.
100%.
And so it's about building community relationships. This doesn't necessarily do that. It's about having a person in the building who is supporting the ALICE protocol to make sure that our safety measures are in place. So this is just, when I've talked to the board in the past, we've talked about having layers. This is just another layer to what we already have in place. So
And every staff member will have one of these, like office.
Yeah.
Everybody.
every staff member will have one of these.
Brian, in your conversations with the sheriff regarding this, did you guys talk about proximity to LEOs in the area and how frequently they're in this area during school hours?
We did,
It's
and it was, I think response times range 2 to 5 minutes,
2 to 5 minutes.
Sorry, I was trying to.
and that, don't specifically quote me on that, but it was right in that range.
somewhere in that vicinity.
There's always 2 squads in Salem Lakes.
Salem Lakes.
Does anybody have any data on response times with SRO officers in schools? It would be interesting to see what that is.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's a response time there as well. And so you would hope that it was less because they're on site, but also at the same time, they have to determine a location and where actually it is in comparison to where they are in the building. And so I would assume, we're still somewhere near that 3-minute mark, even
Yep.
for an SRO officer in school.
Oh, I would say definitely less than that, but
Well, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
But so, and this system, I assume, whenever that is triggered, it has a location as to
Yes,
where it
that's what I was
triggered,
just gonna
so
say.
we know immediately.
Right. So if let's just say we had an SRO too, the SRO would have the app. And what happens is, as soon as there's an emergency, that the app, we can go into our app and see where that was
Happened in the
triggered
library
from.
because we're sitting here right now.
Right.
Bing, 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 bing,
Right.
bing. You
And
guys are
so
notified that
in the case of like a medical emergency, or maybe a kid is running out of the building, we can also track the movie, the movement of the tag.
So even if we don't have an SRO, can a member of the sheriff's department that's patrolling Salem Lakes also have this app? So before they even get here, they know
It's a
where?
good question. I don't know about that, so, but I can find out.
But this does alert the sheriff.
Yes.
As soon as, yeah, so what's gonna happen is that once somebody triggers that 8 button and it sends to the sheriff is going to immediately dispatch.
No, but I
think
No,
think the
that's-
point is, if you
Access to the
can
app.
pull up the
They know
phone.
right
Oh,
away.
the individual.
Where the
control
incident
cars.
is
They know
happening.
exactly that they've got the digital map and they know. it's
So
in
they're
the
not
library.
on this
That's a
side of
great
the
question.
school and it's happening.
They know where to pull up and everything.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
And my other question is, you mentioned about the flashing light. Do you know if you have students attending here that have sensitivity to flashing lights that might put them into a medical situation?
We probably do, or we do, but and I can ask them what they do, but I would imagine, first of all, we will never use this system for a drill. This is not a drill.
Did you mention?
It would only be if we were going to go into lockdown.
And would you use this for a medical need, or is this just emergency?
No, we would be able to use it for medical need, and then the lockdown would be only, well, okay, let me step that back. We can put it into drill mode, but what we wouldn't do is do this system and not alert teachers that we were going to be, because you can run a drill this way, but we wouldn't do it unless the teachers were alerted ahead of time that there's going to be a lockdown. They might not know it's going to be at 2 o'clock, but they would know it's coming because it's way too hard to, coordinate, but also the fear that it evokes in kids and in teachers is pretty heightened if they think there's an active shooter in the building.
And did I maybe it made in my head, did I hear you say that we can choose the color of those lights?
If we can choose the color of those lights.
This is outside of my knowledge range. Brian, you probably have the most knowledge about this, but people that have impacts with strobe lights that can cause seizuring, is it a specific?
That's
You're
probably
not sure?
more of a
It's not a
neurologist
specific
question.
color.
Yeah.
It's not a
It's
specific
the
color, just
strobe
the
that-
in and of
and-
itself.
They react differently. I mean, some children with seizures just don't move. They don't
Yeah, they
react.
go-
And
they
other
go
kids have other,
catatonic, basically.
and so, obviously
So that
the
That's
staff
definitely a-
knows who it
that's
is, so
definitely
they
a question
would
that we
take.
should address and see.
Yeah, and
Because maybe we have an option of going with something opposite of a strobe.
Well, and I also wonder, like, if you have a medical need in the kindergarten classroom, middle school doesn't need to have a strobe on in their room.
That was the other question I was gonna ask. is-
oh, no, it
That's-
doesn't, it only does it for,
the eight.
Got it.
So
for the
medical
8.
Well,
emergency,
do
don't
we-
activate
Do we
strobes.
want to move past this in hopes he comes in? Do we need more information from the board?
I don't,
My only question is, do we need a 5-year contract or can we do a 3-year contract?
It's 3, I'm sorry, it was
Yeah,
3.
and also I just ran the math on it, and it's not entirely accurate unless I made a mistake here, but I ran it 3 times, and there is an additional $2,000 that
Yes.
I'm coming up with that I'm not.
There is an additional $2,000 that is on, and he emailed me what that was for. It was I think it was an increase in the installation. This is going to be a little bit less because we already had the digital mapping done. So this quote is a little higher than it will actually come in on.
Oh,
And it
because
is-
they have the digital mapping including in
Yes.
this quote. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Because typically that's when schools do it, but we did it outside of that because we had a grant.
This must be kind of a cookie cutter sheet for them, because like I say, that $2,000 is not reflected in their
Yeah,
one-time fee.
I did reach out to him about that though.
I would feel comfortable if we move past this one and give him some more time
Sure.
if we're at the
Yeah,
end
it
of the
would be
meeting.
nice to be able to talk to
And
them.
he hasn't emailed me, and the other thing we could do is if the board wants to talk to him, I could ask him, we could do a special board meeting and he could come back in if you feel more comfortable doing that, or however I did send the board earlier this year, the video on it. If you remember that, I sent
Yeah,
you
vaguely.
a video. I'm not sure, I hope something didn't happen, but I don't know. So we can move past it and then come back to it.
All right, next would be board resolution.
So this is the resolution to go with,
I apologize, Kim, investment firm.
this is the motion to go with Ampersand as our investment firm. Soon, Tim and I met with 3 different municipal advisories firms that we would be using to deposit our referendum monies in. We met with ADM, PMA, and Ampersand. After all three companies are in Wisconsin, and they all have pretty good reputations. I think at the end of the day, we decided Ampersand was the best fit for us because they offer a variety of services beyond just this. They also are going to pay the contractor bills directly, which is really great and takes a little bit of pressure off of Sue. And they also vet it to make sure that I guess there's a lot of fraudulence in this area with people sending things that really you're not really supposed to pay. So they do double checks, like call us and say, did you just send this through, so that we can, tell them yes.
Extra step of verifying.
Yeah. Is there other things with?
Yeah, remember they take their take on.
Oh, yes, that's in here. So a lot, all these investment companies obviously charge fees. They charge it on the back end so that we're getting all the interest and they're not taking the fees out first, which is also good. And although it's estimated, the investment and interest that they showed us we would be receiving was the highest out of all three. There's a little bit of caution there because it's all estimated, right? The market can do lots of different things. Yeah. So for those reasons, Tim and Sue and I decided that we'd recommend Ampersand to the board.
Did they give you obviously it's all based on interest and stuff like that. Is there a plus or minus that they felt comfortable with when we look at that interest dollar that they put on their schedule? Or
They
is it
didn't-
just
Yeah, they just put
Just
that on there.
caution.
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. They
Sure.
didn't give us a plus or minus for it.
Which is not that surprising, if you
No.
think about it, because it fluctuate pretty easy, and for them to take over, I would kind of lock them in. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it looks like the gross earnings is more than what the fees were further on that we're going to be discussing. I think that was 270,000.
Mm-hmm.
So this one, we're gaining a little
Net
bit,
positive.
if that actually, right,
Net positive.
right, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
And
this.
they came out and met with us. The lady, what is her name?
Kelly Brown.
Kelly Brown, yes,
Yeah.
was great. And like I said, they are able to host other funds for us and do some of those things so that we could have them all in one place. So we like that as well.
All right, do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to add Ampersand Public Advisors LLC to the district list of approved depositories in accordance with Wisconsin statute 120.112(7).
I'll second.
Motion by Gentile, second by Mr. Hurst. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, geez, I don't even.
Oppose?
Sorry.
Motion carries.
Okay. And then.
Board resolution.
Yeah, this is the board resolution that Jordan talked to you about last month when he was here, allowing the authority to me to be able to award the sales of the bonds within certain parameters. And so in the board packet, I outlined what those parameters would be. Like I said, he called me earlier today and said we're looking at selling those bonds tomorrow, which was great news because I was hoping it wasn't going to be while I was on vacation. Because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in Glacier National Park trying to figure out how to sign this stuff. So that was great. Also, then it takes about 3 to 4 weeks. So the bonds get sold, then it takes about 3 to 4 weeks before the closing happens, and all of that can be done virtually. So in your board packet, the entire resolution is there. I tried to outline the things that were most important so that you understood what the parameters would be in me locking us in hopefully tomorrow.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $7 million general obligation promissory notes.
I will second that.
Motion by Mrs. Galich, second by Mrs. Regner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the staffing. Kim, I do have a question about the Director of People Services contract. Did we reach out to other districts about consolidating services and sharing services?
I did, okay, a couple of things. Yes, I did. No one was interested in sharing. Also, I think at this time, as you know, again, as I did the staffing and administrative analysis, I think that it's in the best interest for us to have a full-time sped director. There's a lot of different things that we're trying to do beyond the co-plan, co-serve, and with our MLSS team in having another administrator that can handle some of those delicate matters that pertain to special education. Also, the person that I'm recommending tonight is getting her reading license, which will be great for Act 20 and the regulations that we're required to abide by for that as well. Did that answer your question?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm checking my email to make sure that this guy's not.
And I wish more schools would have been interested in sharing services. I do think, although what you're saying staffing wise may not be best, I do think there's other ways of getting the service that we might need. If it's a coordinator or some other position with less days and less salary, and sharing a director position, but this is where we're at right now. So
I agree with you. I think it would be beneficial. It's unfortunate that we can't encourage some of the other districts to consider it, because I agree. I think it would be beneficial for everybody involved. Do these have to be separate motions here, or are they individuals?
I would do them separate because
Well, I will make a motion to approve the Director of Pupil Services contract for the 25-26 school year through 26-27 school year.
motion by Mr. Hurst,
I'll second that.
second by Mrs. Galich. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Math specialist.
I'll make a motion, we approve the math specialist contract for the 25-26 school year.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Gentile, and I did hear Mrs. Galich first. Sorry, Joe.
I'll go for it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the Dousman contract. And again, Kim, I saw it's a 5-year contract. Is there a reason why they're doing 5-year? I know we're kind of locked into Dousman no matter what. Like, there's no other option, but
I think typically we've always done 5 years. Also, I think they're giving us a pretty darn good rate. And so I think for them, it's sort of, back and forth, it's sort of a give and take. You're right that we sort of are locked in. I was very surprised that the increase wasn't higher. They did the same contract with Wilmont. And as I wrote in the board narrative, we're actually paying a little less than we had projected for next year. And this is also allows us to get out of the being charged for mileage that we are not using. Mhm.
Honestly, in this perspective, I generally agree with you on the length of these things, because you want to be able to renegotiate. But in this particular situation, having a 5-year with them is probably pretty good based on the volatility of gas, transportation cost, and how quickly those can increase. So for them to give us a 5-year contract at this rate is very beneficial.
So are we locked in on the fuel rate, or is it fluctuated, the fuel rate?
We're being
that we
charged
pay?
we're being
use?
charged what we used. I don't think it's at a fixed rate, correct, as I read it?
No,
It's
it's
at,
They adjust the rate.
It fluctuates.
based on fuel.
But
Okay, that's
everything
what I
else
thought I
is
read.
not.
but if I remember correctly, aren't we negotiating technically early here?
Yes,
Right,
this is a year early.
So I thought, so we've used 4 years of the 5-year
Yes.
contract the board previously signed.
Yes.
So they've shown good faith. That's why I don't have an issue with the length of the
Yeah.
contract, knowing that we went to them and asked something, quite frankly, that was outside of what we negotiated last time, and they were more than willing to come to the table. I don't have an issue with the length of the contract.
I do have one question around Section 12, their safety program.
Mhm.
It says that they're not required to perform any medical functions for passengers. Do you know if they are like CPR certified?
I believe they are CPR certified, but if we have any kids that have medical issues, we have an aide that is on the bus.
Well, we do. So
Yes.
anytime
And then my other
there's
question-
always an aid there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
My other question is around special ed transportation. I know that we were doing, what were the costs last year? There was like a private busing service that we did.
That was 2 years ago. That was
2 years.
before I came on.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't. They're all busable and we put an aid on the bus.
Okay.
We have
So we don't
two,
have any
No,
private.
we don't
two
have any.
buses that have aids on it right now.
That was my question. I know we paid a lot of money for that private transportation, so I was wondering if that was something that, if they provided that service as well,
Mhm.
if they can meet, then,
That's included in their contract. That's part of, that's not an
If,
additional,
it would be if we had to have a separate bus.
but
if we-
because we don't have to have.
We
a
don't have to have a separate bus,
Okay.
at least in the needs that we have now.
Yep.
I mean, things change. But Brian is referring to special transportation because there was an alternative placement to a different school. And then, you have to go with, I mean, there's lots of different ways you can do that. You could reimburse the parents, you can do special
Got it.
transportation. So it just depends on that. But currently, we don't have the needs in our district to have special education buses being run.
is there a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the contracting with Dousman Transportation for busing services starting in 25-26 school year through June 30th, 2030.
I'll second.
Motion by Mrs. Regner, second by Mr. Gentile. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Then Kim, is this something, the crisis alert system, that needs to be done this month?
I would say we should do it this month. We can do it if you'd rather have it through a special board meeting, only because there's a lot of moving parts of installation. And so part of it is the wiring, all of those things. If we want it up and running, and it would be hard to do during the school year, I'm gonna say that.
Oh, yeah, very difficult.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna have to get in a lot of places and be, yeah, that would be tough.
So,
Did they give you an idea
What
of how long
concerns
it
do you
takes
have
them
with
to do,
not speaking to the general?
an install of this?
I didn't ask, but I can ask.
That would
I
be,
just-
that would be something that would be good.
if
to know.
the contracts, I mean, they have 5 years laid out in here. There's an extra $2,000 that's not accounted for on the
But-
itemized.
But we,
2,000.
you are aware of that, and
Yes.
he did explain that, so it's not in the contract, but we've got some.
But I think Brian's concern is if we approve a contract as it's presented to us.
$54,400 for a grand total. And
So you could do it as to not exceed that amount if you wanted to do that. If you need more information, I don't know, this guy didn't come in.
I
I
guess
can have him. come
my
in
other
as well.
question is this is obviously it's broken up year by year. It's not 54,000 at once. I know we've had a lot more questions for a lot less expenses on things, and so this is quite an expense to think about.
That was
the
gonna be
next
my next
question.
question, what I wanted to ask,
Does show
what I
the
wanted to ask,
Yeah.
just, is that expense the breakdown over the 5-year cost, or is that the 5-year contract and you pay in full upfront? Or is it you pay your initial and then you pay your yearly?
There's a lot of questions about the contract.
So- One page after the contract,
Oh,
or
yeah.
after the statement. Shows that 50% is due at the time we
Right.
issue a PO and sign the agreement. 50% is due after the 120 days after. So we're
Okay,
paying for
so-
year one,
So we're at 20,600 for year one, which
and then it's
includes
8450
installation
annually.
and service.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is not all one big chunk.
We're not looking to
However,
spend 54.
This is part of what's coming out of the referendum. So I'm gonna have that expended down so that we can use the referendum funds.
Are you aware of, or did you see, I haven't only had a chance to prove it, but is there any outs in there for us?
Outs,
Like if you
after
decide-
year two, we say, you know what, this actually is not sufficient for us, it doesn't work the way that we had intended for it to work. We'd like to move on from this contract. Is there any outs anywhere in the contract?
I don't know about that. I guess I can ask him.
It would be good to
Yeah.
know that. I mean, I have faith that we won't need an out, which
Kim,
would
are
seem
you-
very good.
Are you presenting this as a 3-year, right? I mean, I know I know what he quoted says 5 years, right? So your note said 3, you've said 3, like, I mean, I guess as we're sitting here talking, as a board, if it's the 20,000 plus, call it 16, 17 additional thousand, we're looking at spending 37,000 over 3 years out of the referendum money that we've spent. I understand you're asking regards to an out clause, but if we're going to spend the $20,600,
That's
I'd
right.
like to think we're committed for the 3-year term, because in order to go to another program or another
Right.
system, we're going to be
Have that
rewiring,
initial
recabling, resetting it up. So, I mean, I guess knowing what we know, I mean, it certainly would have been nice to hear from them, but I don't know how everyone else feels. Is there a reason to have a special board meeting around this? I mean, We've been talking about having a crisis alert system. If the verbiage on the 5 years is too much, then let's make a motion that it's a 3-year contract and we're approving
You
this
guys can
dollar.
adjust the,
I mean, I get,
Well,
again,
they'd
if
have
others
to-
don't have any other
they'd have to
questions.
Sign up on that too. They'd have to.
Yeah, they'd have
Correct.
to,
Correct.
But I do agree with you. And again, the only reason I asked about the out is because you just never know.
Oh, yeah,
I
look,
don't
I get it.
anticipate
I
that
get
we
it.
would look for the out, especially based on the fact that the cost of initial setup somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think obviously we're using the referendum money, which is essentially what we went out and asked the taxpayers through. I think we'd have to commit to the 3 years, right? And make sure it works the way that we want it.
what is the on-site training? So
That's teacher education.
a little bit, but mostly for
I
admin.
think it's how you guys
Yeah.
use the app and respond.
So is that someone coming here to train?
I don't know if they're gonna come here to train us or if
What does that
they're
cost
gonna be
per
doing it
$1,500.
virtually. When I talked to them about the PD,
It does say it.
there's
So-
not a ton of PD involved for the teachers. It's mostly for admin to be able to.
Well, And that's where I wonder in this contract if there's leniency of you go back to these guys are like, if we're shelling out $40,000, do they need to charge us $1,500 to train the people when we're buying their product?
Mhm.
Like,
My other question would be, once the annual contract renews and they talk about moving up to current pricing, is it when it kind of sucks you in and it's a good price up front, but then
now it's $16,000 a year in 3 years.
do they have any idea of
Okay, could we be
what
better
type of
offset in a
increase we would be
5-year, right?
looking at to keep it moving forward?
That's a great question. It would be nice.
So
to
are
know
you
if they
asking
have any
essentially, like, are we
escalators
better
after
offside
the
at a
initial
5-year term?
contract.
It's a lot.
Here's-
Well, at 5 years, is it like, hey, it's 8,000 or whatever it is
$8,450
annually,
a year.
and now it's 15 or 20
16 or
or
17
we
grand.
need to do new wiring and we just need to consider that? Or is it like, hey,
Yeah.
go up to 9 grand, but your wiring should
If they
stay
have
the
something like that, they'll refer to that as an escalator. So
Yep.
we can ask,
And I
do
don't-
you guys have any escalators after your initial contract?
I don't want to assume, but because in the notes they put quote includes mapping, installation, onboarding, and training. So I do have a feeling that this could be another cookie cutter contract they just put our name on, and we've denied contracts before that because, again, if we're going to shell out the money, do due diligence
This
and
number and this number.
Have it match.
have it
the
match what we're
work.
asking for.
And then
I'm gonna be
additional
honest, I
4
wouldn't
years
feel
comes to
comfortable
this.
passing this tonight.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Did 5 years
So
plus
we have
this.
to have a special board meeting over it, and we do.
So
But
it works out.
hopefully that there's no emergency. But I think it's important that we have the ability to ask him questions.
I
Sure.
actually agree. I would like to be able to speak with him so he can answer these questions directly.
So I'm going to make a motion to table the crisis alert system
Oh, I guess.
at this time.
I'll second.
Do we need? I don't think we need him to. Actually, do we even need a motion on that, Kim? Or should we just don't
No,
take
we don't
action?
need one.
Yeah,
Just not table
we're just
action.
going to table
Yeah.
it.
I mean, I call it his figure. I don't
All right.
know.
Then our next meeting is June 24th, 2025. I make a motion to adjourn to executive session as in accordance with Wisconsin state statutes.
I will second.
Second by Mr. Hurst. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Do we need this there?
I should have showed you that.